Did you know that if you are dealing with chronic illness, the work that we put in is harder than training for the Olympics? Think about that one. Hey, you still here? Well, thank you for being here. Like I mentioned in episode 1, a lot of times videos on YouTube are sponsored by companies or products or something like that. And my video is sponsored actually by you. You watching my videos, you liking my videos, you subscribing to my channel. That's my sponsorship right now. And thank you for being here. Thank you for watching. And I just can't thank you guys enough. I appreciate you. Welcome back. This is the Inside Stylist vodcast, and this is just a vodcast that I wanted to create so that I could have a space where I could connect with you, those of you who struggle with chronic illness like myself, and just know that you are being seen. So this is episode 2, and I kind of wanted to talk about the difficulty or challenges of living, like what a day-to-day life is like for someone with chronic illness. And I kind of wanted to share about this and talk about this because I think it's important for other people who have chronic illness to know that, hey, somebody gets it, somebody's putting it out there, somebody knows the difficulty that I go through every day. And 2, maybe this video can be shown to your loved ones that could maybe hear it from somebody else than yourself to explain how difficult life is with chronic illness. And so I just kind of wanted to get into this. This living with chronic illness is, like Anthony William, the medical medium, has said, actually, he didn't say that. He was helping somebody who was an Olympian. And that person, he said, when he was dealing with chronic illness and using all the medical medium protocols or whatever kind of healing that you'd like to use, but this person was using medical medium protocols to heal. That person said that it was harder than training for the Olympics. That is how difficult this is. I'm just going to share my own experience, but I'm sure a lot of you have your own experiences with chronic illness and your own troubles and challenges. And I'm not saying that mine is any more or less difficult than yours, but just to give an example, especially if someone here is watching that doesn't suffer with chronic illness, just can get an idea of what it's like. So for myself, when it was extremely difficult, I dealt with, one of the symptoms was feeling faint all the time. So that caused me to lose my independence. I couldn't work anymore. I couldn't go somewhere without having someone near me because I was afraid that I was going to faint. So it's like I had to think about that. In addition to feeling faint all the time, I also was getting extremely motion sickness. So just, reversing out of a parking stall in a car. That made like everything spin. It made me feel so dizzy. So I would think about like, hey, okay, like what kind of a car ride is it going to be? Is it going to be a straightaway? Is there a lot of bumps in the road? Is there a lot of turns? Is it a lot of up and down, which those aren't shown on maps, so you just don't know? Is there elevation in your drive? All of those little things would cross my mind before I agreed to go somewhere or think about going somewhere. So there was just like all of this thought process that went through with that. Another thing, and then with the motion sickness, if I was going to go to somewhere that had an elevator rides were like terrible for me. It was so terrible. I had to be by the door so I could press the button, because the more times that the elevator would stop and open for people or stop and let people off, it was the worst for me. So if there was a lot of like opens and closes of people getting in and out, it was so terrible. It made me so nauseous, and it made me feel so sick and lightheaded. So something like that I had to think about when I would go to a place that had an elevator. Another thing that I would think about is I was very sensitive to the sun. So going outside and thinking, oh, if we're going to go somewhere, is it going to have shade? Am I going to be cool enough so I won't feel faint, or I won't get a migraine, or I won't feel nauseous? Those are some of the things that I had to think about when traveling. So there's all this energy being used. In a day-to-day kind of a thing, I dealt with extreme fatigue during that time, and also brain fog. And so fatigue it's not just feeling tired. For me, it was like there was 100-pound weight tied to each of my limbs, and just to move my arm or to move my leg felt like I used so much energy. And so thinking of lifting your fork to eat something was such a big task. Brushing your teeth, changing your clothes, washing your hair, just things like that took 10 times more energy than it would have for someone who was just normal. Brain fog, that made me have such a difficult time choosing like something to eat. So you would just be like, oh, I don't know what I'm going to eat. And you think and you think and you try to make a decision, but every time you try to make a decision, it just exhausted you. And that was kind of like how I dealt with brain fog. So those are just the difficulties of dealing with the symptom part. Then it was just the everyday stuff. Just trying to live minute by minute, hour by hour, trying to get enough energy to continue on, getting enough energy to make yourself the healing food that you can't go and just buy from the store. Bananas became my best friend because all you had to do was peel it, and that was so easy. But things like that, I don't think people understand the difficulty in that. And I remember even after I ate or after I did something, you have to clean up. And that's a whole nother energy. But sometimes I was too tired after making my food that I had to actually go and lie down for a bit and then come back and clean up. But then you have to get ready for your next meal. So there's all this like energy being used. And then there's the things of just feeling uncomfortable the whole entire day, whether it was pain, whether it was you were itching, or myself. I don't know why I'm saying you, but I'm speaking of my own experiences. Any of those kind of things, it just exhausted me the whole day. And then there's the night, and you go to sleep and you don't get a good night's rest because One, I'm either itchy or my stomach was bloated and it was so uncomfortable that it kept me up, or I felt a little nauseous from whatever reason, or I had heart palpitations, or not heart palpitations, I'm sorry. I had tightness in the chest, so it would like tighten. Or sometimes I would wake up in the middle of the night and I have a full-blown panic attack. So I feel like so anxious for no reason. Or pain in my jaw and you're clenching so tight that you actually wake yourself up because it's so painful, and you bite all of a sudden and it shocks you. I've had those kind of things. So there's this whole restless sleep at night. So you don't actually sleep at night. And then the next morning you have to get up, and it's somehow, for me, mornings are the absolute worst. It's when all the symptoms are like intensified for me. So, and on top of that, you're tired because you didn't sleep. So that is what, in a little nutshell, the difficulties of dealing with chronic illness. Now, on top of all the day-to-day pain and suffering and your day-to-day life, and you trying to go and use all this energy to make yourself food so that you can heal, you have to deal with also other people's personalities and feedback and opinions and criticism. And I do know that most people, now that I've gone through this, most people's reason for all of that is because they're unaware, they're uncomfortable, or they're speaking from a place of fear. So I try to have compassion for all of them, but I also have more compassion for those who are suffering that has to hear all these things, because it's not easy to hear all of that, because their doubts somehow are being put on top of you, and you already have a lot of uncertainty in your life of not knowing how you feel tomorrow, not knowing how you feel in an hour, not knowing if it's going to get worse, not knowing if what you're doing is helping. There's all this uncertainty when there is lots of chronic illness symptoms, or even just one chronic illness. There's so much uncertainty. So when somebody else goes and puts their uncertainty onto you to add to more doubt, it can be extremely tiring, and it can really dampen your light or dim your light, and that can be exhausting. So for all my chronic illness warriors out there that are listening to this podcast or vodcast, I just want to share this with all of you, that you are doing work that is more than, because the Olympian said this, harder. It is harder than an Olympian training for the Olympics. Don't forget that. Give yourself some credit. Know that you are working extremely hard, and that's the kind of battle that you're dealing with. But unlike an Olympian who's training for a one-time event, you are fighting for your life. And that is a whole different type of drive and dedication that is needed. And you got this. We got this. We will heal. And I know that it's been really difficult. And I know the amount of work that you've been putting in, because I too have been putting in that work. So I understand and I know. And that is the whole reason why I wanted to do these vodcasts, was so that you would know that I know, because I've been through this too. And that I'm here to share the message about what we go through, so that other people can have maybe a glimpse or have some compassion for what we're going through. But also, I just wanted to have this space so that we, hopefully, with me sharing my experiences and how I navigated through these challenges, it will bring a little bit more peace for you. That is my hope. I know that I've been talking, like the last 2 episodes, I feel like episode 1 and this episode is a little deep, is a little emotional, and it can be a little bit triggering. I totally get it. But don't get upset. Just know that I see you, I understand, and there's no reason to be upset and frustrated and hurt with all the challenges. We are going to navigate through with peace, with a light heart, and we will get through this part. And I will tell you right now, since I've been through a lot of these experiences, it's once you get through them, at first when you're in it, it's really intense. But I've learned to just kind of make peace, have compassion for the other people, have compassion for myself and my healing, and try to go through it with a light heart, because you don't want to stress yourself out. You don't want to cause any more adrenaline rushes. You want your body to use its energy to heal. And that's my goal with all of this, is that we're going to refocus and pivot on healing and saving our energy and healing. And I promise in the next episodes, hopefully we'll get there. But I just kind of first want to, kind of want you to know that I understand you. And once we build that sort of foundation, that we'll go into more lighthearted stuff. I'll get into more lighthearted topics in the future. And you can feel free to list any topic if you want me to talk about them in the comments below. But I felt like this one was appropriate for today and for episode 2. Well, thank you for watching, and I'll see you in the next one. Bye.